All right, so brain-computer interfaces. Um, this book you sent over, NeuroConnect, it seems like we are really diving into some pretty intense stuff,
Yeah, that's
like
right.
telepathic communication and enhancing your senses and all this stuff. It's really kind of like we're stepping into a sci-fi novel, but this is becoming our reality.
Yeah, and it's moving so fast.
Yeah.
And this book does a great job of laying out both the incredible potential, but also the very real questions that we need to start asking ourselves about this technology.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that struck me early on in NeuroConnect was just how many different kinds of BCIs there are. You know, everything from implants to external devices. Can you kind of break that down a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we talk about different types of BCIs, it really comes down to this trade-off between precision and accessibility. So you can think of it this way. An implant is kind of like having a direct line to your brain signals. It's incredibly precise, which is why it's showing so much promise for things like restoring movement for people with paralysis.
Right.
They can potentially control a prosthetic limb with just their thoughts, almost as if it were a natural extension of their body.
Oh, wow.
Um, so that's the potential of having something implanted.
Yeah. That's incredible. And I can see how that would be, incredibly effective, but I can also see how brain surgery may not be everybody's cup of tea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where these non-invasive methods come in, like EEG. You've probably seen those like caps with the electrodes.
Right, yeah.
And essentially what that is it's picking up brain waves through the scalp. So it's kind of like listening in from the next door neighbor's house instead of being right there in the room.
Right.
You might not get the same level of detail,
Mm-hmm.
but it's much more accessible. It's less intimidating for a lot of people, and so it has a lot of potential there.
So what could somebody realistically expect to do with like a non-invasive BCI at this point?
Yeah, so we're already seeing non-invasive BCIs being used in things like gaming, for example,
Okay.
controlling simple computer interfaces, even assisting with meditation.
Mm.
Imagine being able to just use your thoughts to move a cursor on a screen or to select a song or even influence the environment in a video game that's becoming increasingly possible.
Yeah.
And that's just with what's available today.
It's wild to think that those little flickering lights on an EEG, can be translated into an actual action.
Right.
But the book takes it a step further, right?
Yeah.
It starts talking about this whole concept of telepathy, like actually communicating through thought.
It
Is
is.
that really on the table?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely one of the most fascinating and potentially revolutionary applications of BCIs. And NeuroConnect actually talks about some of the early research that's being done in this area. And it's pretty mind-blowing. Imagine a world where you could send a thought to another person, just like sending a text message.
Yeah.
But without needing words or language at all. Just a direct thought transfer.
Yeah. It's exciting and terrifying all at the same time.
Right.
Like, how do we even begin to navigate a world where our thoughts are no longer entirely our own?
Well, that's, I think, where this book really starts to shine, because it dives into the incredible potential of this technology while also acknowledging the huge ethical and societal questions that come along with it.
Yeah.
It's not just about what we can do, but what we should do.
Right, because, we're talking about these amazing potential benefits helping people with disabilities, enhancing communication, maybe even unlocking new levels of human connection. But then there's also the potential downsides that we have to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest concerns that the book raises is this potential for exploitation.
Right, because it's not just, thought-controlled video games anymore. We're talking about technology that could fundamentally change who we are and how we interact with the world.
Exactly. Imagine a world where companies or governments could potentially access your thoughts, target you with hyper-personalized advertising based on your emotions, or even try to manipulate your desires. It's like something straight out of a dystopian novel, but it's a very real possibility if we don't establish safeguards.
Yeah, and it's not just about these malicious actors, right? What about just inherent bias? Like, our thoughts and our perceptions, they're shaped by our experiences, our backgrounds. If those biases get baked into the algorithms that are powering these BCIs, I mean, that could have huge implications for everything from, hiring decisions to criminal justice.
Absolutely. And that's a critical point that NeuroConnect really emphasizes, is that we need to be incredibly mindful of these biases as this technology develops and to ensure that it's used in a way that's equitable and just. Otherwise, we really risk just amplifying these inequalities that already exist and creating a world where access to opportunities and maybe even basic rights is determined by our brainwaves.
Right. It's kind of a scary thought. But I do appreciate that the book doesn't shy away from those hard conversations. And it actually goes even further. It even talks about how BCIs could revolutionize the way that we explore space.
Yeah, and that's where things get really interesting, I think. Because imagine astronauts being able to control spacecraft with their minds or communicate telepathically across vast distances or even adapt to the harsh conditions of space more easily. BCIs could really be the key to unlocking a completely new era of space exploration.
It sounds like we're talking about Star Trek here, but it's amazing to think that this could actually be within our reach.
It very well could be.
And it's not just about exploring the cosmos either. NeuroConnect also talks about how BCIs could be used in building and maintaining space settlements.
Exactly. Think about it. Using your mind to monitor life support systems, or to control robots that are performing dangerous tasks, or even communicating telepathically with other settlers, it could completely transform the way we approach space colonization. We could literally create a whole new society beyond Earth that's connected in ways that right now we can't even imagine.
It's both exhilarating and a little bit daunting to consider all of these possibilities. But I think the core message that I'm getting from NeuroConnect is that we're not just passengers on this train. We have a responsibility to actually shape how this technology develops and to make sure that it's used ethically and for the betterment of humanity.
Absolutely. I completely agree. This isn't just a technological revolution, it's a human one. And it's up to us to decide what kind of future we want to create with it.
You've given me, and I'm sure everyone listening, a lot to think about here. You know, it started as this deep dive into NeuroConnect, has really kind of become this exploration of what the future could hold, and more importantly, what we want that future to look like.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, we talk about things like self-driving cars or AI that can write code. But when you start talking about BCIs, it's touching on something much deeper.
It really is.
It's really about what does it mean to be human?
Mm-hmm.
It's about the power of our own minds and how we choose to connect with each other and with the world around us.
And one of the things that I thought was so fascinating in the book was this idea of sensory augmentation.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to get caught up in, the communication aspect of it. But what about actually being able to experience the world with enhanced senses?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the most exciting possibilities with this technology is that it could really open up these whole new ways of perceiving reality.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine being able to see in the infrared or hear a wider range of sounds or even perceive things like magnetic fields. It would be like opening up a whole new dimension to our experience.
And not even just for us as individuals.
Right.
Imagine the implications for scientific discovery, for art, for even just understanding the universe in ways that right now we can't even fathom.
Absolutely. There's so much potential there. And that's something that NeuroConnect does a great job of, is it doesn't shy away from those big questions.
It really doesn't.
It really is a call to action.
Yep.
It's a reminder that we're not just passive observers in this technological revolution. We have a responsibility, and we have the opportunity to shape this technology, to guide it towards a future that benefits all of us. And I think that starts with education.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with conversations like this one.
Exactly.
Where we're really thinking critically about these issues.
Right. The more we understand about BCIs, the more we can make informed decisions about how they're developed and how they're used.
Exactly.
And I think this book is just a fantastic starting point for anybody who wants to kind of dive into this world.
It really is. It's a very accessible and engaging read.
Yeah, it really is. So to everyone listening, if any of this has piqued your interest, definitely check out NeuroConnect. It'll leave you with more questions than answers, but in the best way possible.
It really will. It's a journey into the future of the human mind.
It is. And I think it's a journey that, as NeuroConnect makes very clear, it's a journey we're all on together.
Very much so.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thank you all so much for joining us for this exploration of brain-computer interfaces and the incredible potential that they have to really reshape our world. Until next time, keep those minds curious and keep those conversations going.